Hi everyone, Jellica here from aprettyfix.com, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this lovely leaf vine pattern using the double half hitch knot. If that sounds interesting to you, then stick around. You'll need the following supplies: one length of 3mm macrame string measuring about 32 inches, and 3 additional long lengths of 3mm macrame string, each measuring about 84 inches. I used a piece of driftwood, 2 S-hooks, a couple of cotton strings, and scissors for this particular wall hanging. Place both S-hooks on a bar. I just used a clothing rack bar. Place the driftwood onto the S-hooks and then just attach them securely with a couple of those cotton strings. It just prevents the driftwood from flying off when you're creating all those lovely knots. Grabbing the shortest macrame string, fold it in half, and then create your first knot. This is called a lark's head knot, and it's used to attach each macrame string to your driftwood. Attach the other 3 long macrame strings the same way, fold each one in half, and then attach them using the lark's head knot. Now for the fun part. Grabbing the 2 macrame strings furthest to the left, this is what you're going to be using to create the vine effect, and you're going to be creating double half hitch knots around both strings. A double half hitch knot simply means that you're using the same string to create 2 knots, so just follow along for our first double half hitch knot. Grabbing the next macrame string, place it over top of the 2 strings, just like this. You want to make sure there's a loop available, and I'm sort of exaggerating the look of the loop just to give you a sense of how to do this, and simply pull the string through the loop. Hanging onto the 2 strings with your right hand, gently tighten the knot with your left, and then just push that knot to the top. I just want to point out 2 things for absolute beginners. When it comes to creating the shape of your vine, they can be as curved or as angled as you want. Just make sure to hang on to those strings at that precise angle. And the double half hitch knots that you're creating around those 2 strings, they will be following the shape of the vine, basically perpendicular to the double strings. Now for your second knot, just follow the exact same pattern. Grabbing the same string, place it over top of the 2 strings, and then pull it around the strings through the loop, and then tighten that loop with your left hand to create the second knot of your double half hitch knot. For our absolute beginners, this is what your first double half hitch knot should look like. It'll be slightly angled, following the general trajectory of those 2 macrame strings. Now moving on to our second double half hitch knot, just grab the next macrame string and repeat the same pattern again, creating a loop, pulling the string through the loop to create the first knot. Using the same string, you're going to create a loop again for your second knot to create your double half hitch knot. And here's a little close-up of your 2 double half hitch knots. Now you're ready to continue creating double half hitch knots until you reach the very end. Now you're going to want to set those 2 macrame strings aside for now to create our first leaf pattern underneath that vine. The leaf pattern will also involve using double half hitch knots, but this time we're just going to be using single strings. So to do that, we're going to go in the opposite direction to create double half hitch knots. Grabbing the rightmost string, place it against the vine, then grab the next available string, and you're going to be creating a double half hitch knot using that next available string. So create the loop by placing it over top, wrap it around, and then pull through the loop, and then tighten that first knot as close to the vine as possible. And this is pretty much what it should look like, a knot that is right up against that vine that you created above. Now create the second knot the same way that you created the first knot by creating a loop, wrapping it around, pulling it through the loop, and then tightening the knot. Now you can move on to the next string to create your next double half hitch knot. And continue to do this until you have used each one of those macrame strings. And this is what that first row should look like. It should be tight up against that vine that we were creating, with the possible exception of the tip on the left. If you do have a little bit of space there, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but keep it as close to the vine as possible. Now we're going to create another row going in the same direction for this leaf pattern. The reason we do this is because we want the leaf to stick out to the left just a little bit so that it stands out. And by creating a second row going in the same direction, you'll see that we're going to be creating a tip to that leaf. A gentle one, but definitely a tip. So you're going to create this next row of double half hitch knots in the exact same way that you created the row above. As you can see, by creating that second row going in the same direction, it creates a bit of a tip. It comes out just a little bit more to the left. Now, to create the second half of the leaf, we're going to be going back towards the right. We're going to create two rows going towards the right, and here's that first row of double half hitch knots. For our final and fourth row to create our leaf, we're going to go in the same direction again, creating double half hitch knots. A couple of things to note. One of the reasons why you want to create very tight rows for your leaf is because if you're using a particularly soft macrame string like I am, you'll notice that gaps will form. So you just want to be real careful. A slight little gap like this is perfectly okay for the pattern that I'm creating. So it all just depends on which type of macrame string or cord you're using. Now you're going to grab those 2 macrame strings that you used at the beginning, and you're going to continue making that vine pattern, wrapping it around that first leaf. So this is where it gets a little interesting. You're going to be creating a double half hitch knot around the 2 macrame strings, but you're also going to be pulling in ever so slightly in order to pinch the leaf and create a lovely fanning effect. So continue creating double half hitch knots until the vine has fully wrapped itself around the leaf. Once you've created this first vine leaf combination, then you're pretty much good to go to be able to create the next 2 for this particular vine leaf pattern. So we're going to be creating a mirror image of the top vine leaf combination. Let's start by setting those 2 macrame strings aside and creating the next leaf pattern underneath. So here's that lovely leaf vine pattern. As you can see, it creates a really pretty effect, and you can use this for all sorts of projects. You can create larger projects, smaller projects. In this case, I'm just creating a little mini wall hanging, something that I want to add to a little display in our bathroom. So I just removed the dowel from the S-hooks and cut it down just so it's an appropriate size for this little mini macrame ornament that I'm creating. And I'm going to create a hanger as well by creating another lark's head knot through the middle portion here so it can be hung easily on my wall. And to match the raw look of the driftwood, I'm just unraveling the bottom bits of the macrame ornament and even cutting into them a little bit just to create a really jagged, raw look. I really love how this looks in our bathroom. I think it just adds a cool, raw vibe to this shelfie, but really there are all sorts of ways that you can create these vine leaf patterns with all sorts of effects, from a more refined look, maybe with a lovely fringe along the bottom, to something a little bit more jagged. So experiment and just have fun with it. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, then give it a thumbs up and maybe let me know which part you enjoyed the most. It really does help the channel to have this kind of engagement, and consider subscribing to the channel. See you all in the next video.